So, you've got a group of friends stranded on a deserted island for 7 days. Now, that's a classic survival premise, right? But in the hands of Mr. Beast, it becomes this total masterclass in storytelling. So, in this explainer, we're going to break down how this simple challenge transforms into a really compelling narrative journey.
All right, so the setup? It couldn't be simpler. They get dropped on an island where civilization hasn't existed for 250 years, and that boat that just left them, that's their only ticket out of there. The stakes are immediately crystal clear. Survive for 1 week, or you fail. It's just this super clean, high-stakes hook that grabs you right away.
And wow, it doesn't take long for the reality of that premise to hit hard. This is not just fun and games. After one sleepless night getting completely drenched by rain, the misery is just, you can feel it. And that right there, that's the core of the conflict. The struggle, the exhaustion, and that deep desire to just give up. It's the suffering that makes the story feel so real. But then, by the end of it all, the same guy who just wanted to go home says this. So what's the deal? How do you go from pure, raw misery to a memory you'll cherish forever? Well, that transformation is the heart of the story we're about to unpack. Okay, so where does this journey even begin? Act 1 kicks off the second their feet hit the sand. You've got your classic inciting incident, and it comes with a ticking clock, only 4 hours until it gets dark. It's an immediate, chaotic scramble for survival that sets the stakes from the very first minute. And what's so interesting here is how quickly they start to create order out of that chaos. Their survival instincts just kick right in, and they come up with a simple 3-step plan. Build a shelter, make a fire, and secure their supplies. And for a YouTube audience, this is absolutely perfect. It creates a really clear, easy-to-follow checklist for the video's first big goal. And you know what else happens almost instantly? Group dynamics start to form. Sean, who's building the shelter frame, immediately gets nicknamed the survival dad. And Jimmy, who's organizing everything, becomes the mom. All of a sudden, this isn't just a random group of guys anymore. They're becoming a unit, almost like a family. And it gives us, the audience, these really relatable characters to root for. So once the team's all set up and they've got their basic survival sorted, the story shifts into Act 2, the daily grind. This is kind of where the narrative finds its groove, balancing the serious reality of survival with the hilarious relief of their totally absurd side quests. And you can see that tension perfectly right here. On one hand, you've got the absolutely essential life or death tasks like making the shelter bigger so it's rainproof and trying to conserve their water. But then on the other hand, you have these chaotic little adventures like finding a buoy to use as a comfy chair or trying to catch a chicken they named Brian. These moments are key, not just for their morale, but for YouTube pacing. It breaks up the misery with these viral, memeable clips that keep you hooked. But that survival grind, it's always humming in the background, creating this constant tension. I mean, just look at their water situation. They start out with 10 carts full, but by the end of day 2, they're already down to 6. This simple visual shows you just how fast their most important resource is vanishing, which adds this layer of genuine danger to their everyday life. Okay, so just when that daily grind is starting to feel a little, repetitive, the story throws in a major turning point. What looks like just another random side quest that was born out of boredom actually becomes the physical climax of the entire week, the mountain adventure. This is absolutely a deliberate choice to crank up the action. Now, to really get why this adventure is such a big deal, we've got to talk about Mac. The narrator reminds us that Mac has lost a mind-boggling $1.5 million on the channel in past challenges. He's been established as the guy who messes up. That's not just some random number they threw in there. That's some serious character backstory. And then, bam, at the top of the mountain, the real reason for this whole hike is revealed. It wasn't about exploring ruins at all. It was a setup, a character-defining moment for Mac. That physical journey up the mountain becomes the symbolic journey for his character arc. It's a classic redemption story. But of course, getting that redemption, it's not going to be a walk in the park. Literally. The journey back is a nightmare. First, the rain starts. Then they take a wrong turn. Soon, they're lost in the pitch-black dark, and they have to feel their way around these poisonous trees whose sap gets activated by the rain. Every single step on this timeline just cranks up the danger and the tension, turning a simple hike into a genuinely thrilling sequence. So after that physical high of the mountain adventure and that super dangerous trip back, the story takes a hard pivot.
It moves away from the physical climax of the adventure and dives right into the emotional climax of the whole ordeal, where the exhaustion that's been building up finally pushes the group to their absolute breaking point. So, the morning after that whole mountain ordeal, after getting soaked by rain all night, morale just completely hits rock bottom. There are no jokes, no funny side quests, just pure, unfiltered misery. The source video even calls it a nightmare. I mean, this is their absolute lowest point in the entire story, no question. And this brings up what is maybe the most important question in the whole narrative. The physical challenge, that's one thing. But what do you do when your mental and emotional will to keep going is just gone? How do you possibly move forward when you've hit absolute rock bottom? And their solution is actually pretty fascinating. It all kicks off with something super simple. They treat themselves to a can of peach cobbler. And this one small act of self-care completely shifts their mindset. They decide to stop just focusing on survival and start focusing on having fun with each other. They get that camaraderie and reframing their experience, that is, choosing to focus on the good stuff, is the only way they're going to make it through the bad. So once they have that breakthrough, their whole perspective just shifts. And with their spirits back up, the story moves into its final act, the resolution. The goal isn't just to endure anymore, it's to finish strong. And on that last day, the struggle is just gone. They simply pack up their camp, clean everything up, and wait for the boat to come get them. The conflict is over. Their whole ordeal has a clear, definitive ending, which gives us a really satisfying conclusion to this 7-day story. And right here, we get the story's main theme, said out loud, plain and simple. It's a really powerful statement about how human memory works. Yeah, the suffering was real, but in the end, it's the positive moments, the adventure, the jokes, that view from the top of the mountain that are going to define the whole experience. The tough stuff, it starts to fade. And that kind of leaves us with this one big thought. Is it possible that the real value of going through something terrible isn't the experience itself, but the amazing story you get to tell about it later? A story about endurance, friendship, and a major breakthrough. A story you'll remember forever.